Right, hey guys, welcome to another video. Now I'm on Skype, as you can see, with a good pal of mine, James Brown. He is the genetic nutritionist, one of the top guys from Mudo, and we're going to talk about how the genetic side of things and what should be looking out for because of the current situation we're all in. I don't want to say the words because if I do, then the YouTube video gets completely restricted. So we all know what we're on about. So James, fire away. I believe you've got some questions.
Yeah, sure. So the first question would be, why is it that some people are more prone to actually contracting the virus and getting severe reaction or symptoms? So Ed, when we've largely spoken before about genetics, it's been about how big and strong and fast you can possibly be, or how you convert the vitamins and minerals in your food. But I think most people don't seem to realise that their genetics will also dictate how their immune system's going to function. Right. And how proficient they actually are at fighting off viruses. When you look at the virus, the vast majority of people that have been heavily affected have had one thing in common, and that would be a weakened immune system. You can have this for a variety of reasons, really, from old age, underlying health issues, but there's a very, very strong genetic component, which I'll come on to in a second. But before we get going, I'd just like to say that the information, the genetic information that we're about to talk through is still fairly fresh and it's in its infancy. So we need a lot more data before we can actually make any definitive conclusions from it. That being said, there's four main groups that have been identified. That's the elderly, that everyone's fully aware of. Secondly, men are more predisposed to getting COVID. Ethnic minorities and people with darker skin tone. And then the last one, people that are obese. Now, why are those four groups slightly more at risk? Well,
I think my heart skipped a beat then. Did you say people that are obese or obese?
Yeah, obese.
Right.
Yeah, not the beast. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah,
you're right.
My mouth's a bit dry. It's getting a bit warm. So, yeah, people that are obese, and I'll come on to that and explain as to why. With regards to viruses, they don't really have any hidden sort of agenda. So there's not a particular reason or reasons why that they're going to be affecting you. So if we can go through these just one by one, and then I can hopefully clarify for everyone, because no one's really given any information, really. And so everyone's at home scared. And often if you're scared, you're normally scared of things you don't really fully understand. Yeah. So if we explain it a little bit more for people and help everyone relax a little bit more, I think that'd be quite beneficial to do today. So the first one, age. Why is it that the elderly are more prone to getting any type of virus? Well, I think most people realise as we get older, all of our biological processes slow down, don't work quite as well as they did when we were younger. And one of them is the immune system. From a genetic point of view, there's a gene that's been identified as the gateway gene to basically it's located in the lungs. It's called ACE2, and that stands for angiotensin converting enzyme 2. This gene is part of a larger family of genes that control a hormone system in your body called the renin-angiotensin system. And what that basically does, it regulates your blood pressure, your body fluid, and your electrolytes, so dehydrated. So that could be one. That could be one reason, maybe.
That's a big one for me. Big one.
Yeah, there's lots of genes involved in this. If I just pick two out, because we haven't got time to go through all of them. So there's one called ACE, one called ACE2. They need to work in synergy for everything to be working correctly. If they're thrown out of balance, then your blood pressure is going to be massively affected. It can lead to some really serious lung issues, as people are finding out at the moment, especially if you've got higher ACE levels and lower ACE2. So they need to be, they're yin and yang, Jedi and the Sith. Yeah. They need to match each other. Otherwise, if they go out of balance, everything goes pretty much haywire. The virus itself actually attaches itself to this gene in the lungs. Then as soon as it gets attached, it basically throws the whole hormone system out of sync. And that's when you get some real bad inflammation problems and lung issues and heart problems. Another interesting point that nobody seems to have mentioned, yes, we all know that the immune system gets weaker as we get older. That's a given. But we actually produce less ACE2 receptors as we get older. Again, this is going to be thrown out of balance. The virus attaches to the ACE2 and starts to down-regulate it. And if we have less from old age, we're not on a good starting point anyway. Yeah. So that's one area. That brings me on to inflammation that we've spoken about before millions of times in relation to training. We need inflammation to recover, for the muscles to recover, for the adaptations to occur. Now, when the virus attaches itself, the body's like, Right, that's an enemy. I need to get rid of that. So it increases your inflammation massively. I don't know if you've seen on the news, but they've been talking about a thing called a cytokine storm. And what that basically means, in a nutshell, is that your inflammatory response has gone completely haywire and everything internally is going a little bit nuts. One of the genes responsible for this that we've spoken before about is called interleukin 6. When we've been training, we get home, inflammatory response helps the muscles recover, everything gets inflamed. It's an acute response. It's not systemic. It repairs the muscle. Then we come back the next day or a couple of days later, and so on and so forth. The way that a cytokine storm works, we're constantly inflamed so that everything in the body starts breaking down. And a constant amount of inflammation is really bad. And your inflammation, I think your results were okay. You had a normal response, which is fine. So if you've got some people, unfortunately, have naturally higher levels of inflammation. And whilst we can't change those genes, the predispositions, we can compensate for their effects. One way of doing that from a lifestyle standpoint, exercise is fantastic, but just don't, excuse the pun, don't beast yourself. Because if you're training too much, and most people at this current moment in time are either 50-50. They're exercising more or they're just sat on the sofa watching Netflix. There doesn't seem to be anyone in between. So just be mindful that if you are training, you're going for a run, have the next day off or just have enough downtime. So that would be one point from an exercise point of view. The next thing, and you've probably seen this when you've been shopping, the vast array of, I think the technical word is crap in people's shopping trolleys, fast food, crisps, chocolate. And I get it. People are comfort eating. Everyone's stressed. I completely understand that. But what we've got to realize is that foods that give us a short-term pleasure, normally long-term health implications aren't too great. So just be mindful of that when everyone's shopping and buying their food. Look, by all means, if you want a bit of chocolate, have a bit of chocolate, it's fine. But just don't make Willy Wonka look like a complete amateur. Because if you do, you're going to be in trouble. The next point would be vegetable oil, which is pretty much death in a bottle. Don't go near any types of vegetable oil, and specifically any oils that are sold in a plastic bottle, because the fats leach the plastic into the oil. So you're not now drinking oil, you're drinking plastic as well. And probably not going to be great.
So would you say you'd only buy olive oil, say, from a glass bottle?
Yeah, if you're going to buy anything, I'd go to get olive oil from a glass bottle, or I'd get myself some macadamia nut oil or coconut oil, something that's got a slightly higher smoke point. Vegetable oils are, there's no way of sugarcoating it. They're absolutely horrendous for you. So nobody should be having them. They're pretty much like rust in a bottle. Eating and cooking with that is the worst thing to do. How to improve your inflammation with food? This is going to sound really obvious. More fresh fruits and vegetables. I think everyone knows that anyway, whether they like doing it or don't like doing it. Or you could juice. That would probably be worth doing. Omega-3s, like we spoke to years ago about getting your blood work done, which improved your blood work. And I know you're having the amount of fish, you're having about 30 grams a day, which is quite a lot. But then again, you're not a normal chap. So with regards to omega-3s, you've got three different types. You've got ALA from plants, EPA and DHA found in animal sources, and particularly fish. They're fantastic at lowering inflammation. Now we've got the holy trinity of reducing inflammation. So we've got turmeric, cherries, and ginger. Probably not taken together because that's going to be absolutely disgusting, but they're all fantastic at reducing a whole variety of pro-inflammatory genes. And they work in many instances the same as ibuprofen, but they don't have the horrible side effects. So the stomach ulcers, stomach bleeding, and up stomach. So they're fantastic at reducing. That's one area. I don't suppose the virus has got some sort of sexist agenda, but unfortunately, men, and I try and keep up to date with the stats, 70% of all ICU patients have been male. Why is this? Luckily for the ladies, women have got 2 X chromosomes genetically. The ACE2 receptor is found on the X chromosome, so they have more copies to start from. So when the virus attaches to the ACE2 receptor and starts shutting it down, obviously the more that you've got from the starting point, it's a bit of a safety mechanism. So that could be one reason why. The next area, and unfortunately there was a report this morning of a doctor passing away, Ethnic minorities. Again, I don't think the virus has got a sexist agenda or ageist agenda. I don't think it's got a racist agenda either, but there's a particular reason why these groups are getting heavily affected. If we look at the NHS, doctors and nurses, they've got a high proportion of ethnic minorities working there. So this would be one reason. If you're getting exposed to it, they're saying maybe sociological issues, which of course we can't write off. That could be another reason why, of course, but I don't think that's the main reason. If we look at the first 10 doctors to unfortunately pass away from the virus, they were all ethnic minorities, but they were also older in years, with most of them just recently coming out of retirement. So again, weakened immune system. This gene's coming up again. ACE2, less ACE2 as you're aging. If we look at most medical health professionals, God bless them, they're not the healthiest at the best of times. And the reason for that, they work horrendous hours, working every hour that God sends, so they're not sleeping, so their immune response is down. They're under a massive amount of stress normally working at the hospital, and now magnify that tenfold. So again, their immune system is down. If you've been to a hospital lately, there are awash with vending machines and fast food joints. If you're working a 14, 18-hour shift, you're going to get a packet of or a chocolate bar or a fizzy drink. So again, they're not the best food groups for keeping your immune system healthy. So that's 3 reasons why, maybe.
Yeah.
And then the last one that plays into all of this one would be, God bless them, the nurses tend to be overweight sometimes. Stressed, you're working every hour that God sends, you're not sleeping, and you're eating packets of crisps and chocolate because that's all you can get your hands on, you're going to be carrying a little bit of excess weight. And and we'll cover that in a second as to why having a bit of excess body fat can be a bit of an issue. The first 10 doctors to pass away were ethnic minority doctors, but they were also male. So again, less ACE2 receptors because we've only got one X chromosome. So you can see all of these different factors playing into this. I mean, it's not the definitive answer by any means, but it's giving us a little bit more information than we would normally get. What do you think the main health concern that will affect people with darker skin living in the Northern Hemisphere during the winter would get?
Vitamin D deficiency.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, vitamin D is extremely important, and the melanin that actually gives people a darker skin pigmentation is basically Mother Nature's sunblock.
Yeah.
So if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere during the winter, I mean, we don't get any sun anyway, but if you've got darker skin, everyone's going to be deficient that's got darker skin, unfortunately. So I would recommend twice a year getting a blood test to see what your vitamin D levels were. Why is the vitamin D so important? It regulates the innate immune response, so it regulates the immune system. Here we go again. We've got another cameo appearance. It upregulates ACE2 gene. So if you've got no vitamin D, that gene's going to be suppressed. Vitamin D has also been shown in various studies to have a really good effect at reducing respiratory tract diseases. So again, immune response. And interesting, I saw a study 2 weeks ago over in Sweden, in Stockholm, and the population, people that are more likely to unfortunately pass away, have been from a Somali African background, even though 40%, even though they equate for less than 1% of the population. I actually phoned a friend of mine that lives in Sweden. Hello, Sam, if you're watching, buddy, whose wife's actually a doctor, and they confirmed that. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's a good reason why. Vitamin D regulates the immune system and upregulates ACE2. If you've got darker skin and living in Sweden during the winter, you're not going to get any sun. So there's a common denominator running through all of these. We've got the ACE2 gene, which seems to be popping up every now and then. Yeah. There's other factors as well. Now, the last section, obesity. Why is it that people that slightly overweight and carrying excess body fat more prone? Well, again, the stats show us that 70% of patients that have contracted the virus have been obese. What's the reason for this? Body fat, unfortunately, gives off 24/7 inflammation, cytokines all the time, okay? Because your body perceives it as an infection, so it's resonating inflammation all the time. Also, with regards to body fat, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So guess where it's stored in the body? In the body fat. Yeah. So if you're storing it in the body fat, it's not circulating in the blood. If you're not circulating, it's not helping the immune system. And again, it's not helping improve the expression of ACE2. Some of the stats showing that people that are obese and carrying a bit of excess body fat actually have 50% less vitamin D in their body. Okay. So again, this could be one reason. I think it's just more metrics to be added to the equation and more pieces for the jigsaw puzzle. And I think it's giving people a little bit more information. So from those few areas, you can see the importance of vitamin D. That's the first area I thought we'd go through.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, just to recap there then. So that's very helpful. I mean, as you say, James, we're all all going through these weird and very tough times, and no one's really got any clue. I mean, this is my feels that I think this is gonna be the way for quite a while. You know, maybe even 12 months, maybe even more. We just don't know. So little snippets of information like that, you know, 100%. I mean, I take my vitamin D on a regular basis anyway. So that just lets me know that I'm doing the right thing. I'll keep doing it. My training's took a bit of a different direction anyway as well. So I'm dropping my body fat down. So I'm doing two things already that you've sort of stated there. So lower the body fats,
Yep.
up your vitamin D, and that's going to bring your ACE2 levels up and help you fight against the infection if, God forbid, anyone comes across it.
Exactly that. Completely right. Yeah, completely right. No, I think it's quite worrying that we're not really given any guidance from the government or from the media. I mean, people, like I've said before, people are very scared of what they don't understand.
Yeah.
But if you start telling people, look, next time you go shopping, if you pop these food groups into your shopping trolley, or maybe getting more sleep or whatever it may be, if you can make people be proactive with their health, instead of being reactive when they've got something, it's not going to help everybody, but if it can just help a few people to understand the way their body functions, it's got to be worth doing.
Yeah, I think that's something the government's always been slacking on, is good quality nutritional advice. Yeah. But I mean, there's diet advice, which I think, you know, unless you're an absolute fully fledged nutritionist, the government have no right to say anything. But like you've just said, people can eat what they want as long as it's in moderation. So vitamin D, lots of fatty acids as well, like cod liver oils and stuff like that. Lose a bit of body fat. So that's just safeguarding yourself. So I'm guaranteed there's some people watching this video that are like, right, okay, that makes sense.
We prepared not a beginner's guide, a guide to talk people through which vitamins, minerals, how to train, certain things to improve their lifestyle that's going to help enhance the immune system. So I hope that's going to be in the description down below, so people can peruse that at their leisure, because obviously we haven't got time to go through all of that today. One of the areas I got asked a lot is that how do people's genes affect their immune system? But it's pretty much like anything, really. We're all genetically predisposed to different things. Some people are born with extremely strong genes, the same way when you were young, you were great at swimming, then eventually you getting old, you were fantastic at picking up cars and throwing them around. So you've got your genes, the correct stimulus and environment equals Eddie Hall. So your genes need nurturing. So even if you've got fantastic genes at fighting infections, yes, you'll be better placed. But if you're going to bed late, drinking every night, stress, then those genes aren't going to be working effectively. Likewise, if you've got quite poor gene variants in that area, but you're having lots of great foods, getting out in the sun occasionally, exercising, getting to bed early, the expression is going to be slightly better and more pronounced in your favor. So we can all do things to improve the genes that we were given, basically. Well, you can't change your genetic variants. You can largely compensate for their effect.
Okay, that all makes sense, yeah.
Another area would be, what sort of things can people do? And again, we haven't got an hour to go through this, but I'd say probably the quick wins that everyone can incorporate, other than the diet and exercise, would be reducing stress, easier said than done, and getting a better night's sleep. One of the best ways I would recommend to reducing your stress levels straight away that will work instantaneously, stop watching the news.
Yeah, I was going to say masturbation, but
well, yeah, you could maybe, instead of watching the news, you could spend your evenings doing that instead, possibly. It's a win-win, maybe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I came back from Australia when all this was kicking off, and my wife had the news on constantly, and it got to the point where I was getting so angry with her. Well, not just with her, just with the whole situation, and I was getting really snappy and really stressed. And then I made a point, right, you can watch the news once a day when they do the statement, and that's it.
That's it. Perfect.
That's it. I don't want to sit here and read people's problems and read what's going on around the world. We're locked in a house. Let's concentrate on us and make, because that's all we can do. We can help each other. The community that we've surrounded ourselves with is amazing. The NHS and all the key workers. Look after yourselves. Number one, that's what we're doing. And as you say, mental health is one of the biggest things for us in this family.
Completely. I mean, if you're continuously watching the deathometer in the top of the right-hand corner of the news, how many people have died today, it's not going to do you any good at all.
No.
By all means, keep up to date with whichever health authority that you're under, whichever country you're in, because you'll need to be updated with that. Apart from staying at home, washing your hands, and staying 2 meters apart, I can't see them giving you any more pearls of wisdom, to be fair.
No.
And you've got to remember that stress hormones are the quickest way to stop your immune system functioning.
Yeah.
So if you're permanently in this fight or flight mode, which we developed thousands of years ago to run away from tigers and predators, the acute response for that is very, very effective, as you found out with the 500 kilo deadlift. You can tap into that. Fantastic. But if you've got that fight or flight all day, every day, you're going to get sick quite quickly because it just completely obliterates your immune system. I would recommend stop watching the news. You could probably pick up a good book, maybe from Amazon.
Oh, that's a good book. Yeah,
no, it's not bad. Good. Have you read it? It's complete fantasy. Apparently, he wins the world's strongest man and 500 kilo. I don't know what he was smoking, but it's a good read. Apparently.
He's a good looking guy.
When's number 2 coming out?
No time soon.
No, you've got plenty of time to speak your memoirs now. Okay, so yeah, reduce your stress hormones. Don't watch the news. That's going to be the number one thing. Now, and also you've got to remember that stress, and I like using this analogy quite a lot. Stress is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it's not going to get you anywhere. And it's exactly that. You'll be sat there mulling things over. There's no point. Just try and relax as best you can. The next part is sleep, and they pretty much play into each other really, because if you're stressed, you're not sleeping, and if you're not sleeping, you get stressed. So it's a perfect chicken and egg scenario.
Yeah.
Again, I'd say to improve your sleep, again, stop watching the news to reduce your stress. And we all need to get off these things. So an hour to 90 minutes before we go to bed, have a complete tech break. Put filters on your phone, your laptop and your TV. Why is that? Because the blue light that resonates off this and everyone in bed checking their phone, it's telling you it's daytime. So you don't release any melatonin and you don't drift off to sleep. So the best thing to do, get rid of this, reduce all the lighting in your house, because if you still think it's daytime, you can't drift off to sleep. So I think they're the ones that people can introduce straight away that will work quite well. They're the main pointers that I'd give. Just to let everyone know as well, myself and the rest of the team have been working flat out to get we've got a newer immune health mode, which should be available in the next 2 weeks. There's a few areas that we cover: the vitamin D and how that affects your immunity, your normal immunity, B vitamins and how they convert for your immunity, selenium, which is very important. So having the occasional hand of Brazil nuts is perfect. And there's a gene called PTPN22. Bit of a mouthful. What that does, it helps to regulate the immune system, and it does this by basically suppressing your inflammatory response. It helps bacterial infections, and it upregulates things called T and B cells, part of your immune system. They're the areas that I think most people will be able to tweak. Like I said before, we've done it's about 20 pages long, the guide, but I think most people will find it fairly interesting. I've tried to make it so it's not too technical. It's fairly easy to understand. So that's basically it, really. I hope all those pointers have helped everyone. And if anyone's got any comments, then we can either do a follow-up video, or I can do a video myself, or whatever information people would like to know. They can just reach out and we'll give them a hand.
And Mudo, I mean, we do the DNA test to find out the sort of deficiencies.
Yep.
So if anyone's out there, I mean, vitamin D is number one factor throughout the world that's affecting people's immune systems, and people can get tested to see if they're vitamin D deficient or not via the DNA test. Is there any deals on it at the minute, James?
Yeah, so we've decided during this period we're doing everything for half price. And like I mentioned before, the immune mode that we've just got together the last couple of weeks will be live in the next 2 weeks. So if you've already bought the Moodoo test, it will appear in your health insights for you to flick through. But I think it's just, again, if you can just give little people pointers to head in the right direction, just little snippets of advice, I think it's going to be worth doing.
Okay. No, well, I've taken something from this, so I hope everyone else out there has there as well. Right. Thank you for your time, James. And I hope you're staying safe during this pandemic. For everyone else out there, the link for the DNA test will be below. And again, all that great amounts of information there from James. Good luck to everyone out there. Stay safe. Hit the link in the bio, like the video, subscribe. Big love the beast. Take care, guys.